Well, it's Saturday morning, March the 4th. Not quite the weather I had expected, but it is what it is. So let's go fly to Clarinda and Nebraska City. Today's flight will take us from St. Joseph, north 57 miles to Clarinda, Iowa, then 39 miles west to Nebraska City, and finally 67 miles south back home to St. Joe.
Clear prop.
Today I'll be flying my club's 1973 Cessna 172G. The flight should take us about an hour and 39 minutes. It's a 163-mile trip, and a lot of it's pretty boring. So I've edited a lot of this out so as to not be too boring. So right now I'm turning off the taxiway, going into the run-up area where I will do a last-minute safety check, run through a checklist of items to verify, and I'm not going to make you sit through that either, because that's boring if you're not doing it. And so we're going to hop back out onto the taxiway and head up to the runway. The wind at the time of takeoff was mostly from the south, and it was not very strong. But you'll see that the wind changes as I go from airport to airport, and you'll see that the weather conditions change too. The sky changes for the better, but the winds do not. And now I begin the approach into Clarinda, Iowa. And here's a fun fact for you. The big band leader of the 30s and 40s, Glenn Miller, was born here in 1904. So now, as you can see, I'm landing on runway 20. When I took off from St. Joe, I took off from runway 17. The wind was coming out of roughly 180 when I left town. But at this point, it was coming to me right from the west at about 270. So here I'm flying at 200 heading, and that wind is pretty strong, and it's a struggle to keep the plane in the right spot. As you can see, I didn't make it on the center line. Shame on me. Not one of my better landings. Now I'll bring the plane to the stop, and we'll do a turnaround on the runway and taxi back to the beginning of the runway so that we can take off and head for Nebraska City. Here again, I'm coming to another run-up area, and I don't necessarily need to run up because I've not stopped the plane. I've kept it in motion, kept everything running, but I just brought it back over here just to make sure that A, my head was clear, and B, everything was set in the plane the way I wanted it to, so that I could hop back out on the runway and take off for Nebraska City. So now I've crossed the runway at midfield and entered a teardrop so that I could enter the downwind on a 45 and keep the left pattern for runway 33. Again, that wind's coming from the west, and I have failed to enter the correct crosswind angle in my footwork and aileron work to keep the plane on the center line. Again, not my best landing. Now for a quick bio break, and then and the last leg to St. Joe. This, the leg home, is the longest leg of the trip. It's 67 miles, and as you can see, the sky has changed considerably from when we took off. It was gloomy and cloudy, and though the ceilings were high, it was still pretty cloudy when I took off. Now the sky is largely cleared. You can see some blue sky there, but the wind has picked up, and with the wind picking up and the sun shining, the ground has gotten warmer. And so this was probably the most turbulent ride I've ever been on, and I couldn't wait to get home. And here's the approach to my home airport, and I'm so anxious to be home. And here we go. This time they offered me runway 31 because it was more in line with the winds that we were dealing with then. So perhaps you saw him when I was making my approach. There was another plane ready to take off, and so when I got to the hold line here, the controller said, "Hey, hold short of runway 35 for departing traffic." So I did what I was supposed to do, but that was pretty cool right there. I've seen those guys fly around town for 40 years, and now I get to share the runway with them. Well, thanks for coming along. I hope you enjoyed it.